Hey guys, so I'm actually walking into a Chilean grocery store here, which is called Jumbo. It's I don't know, it's just like a high-end grocery store here in Chile. They have a lot of imported stuff from Germany and some stuff from the States. This is just one near my house, so it's a little small one. And I'm gonna maybe show you a little bit of what they offer here and how it looks inside. So one of the big things is that everywhere you go, you have those numbers. You have to pull a ticket. You have to have somebody help you with almost everything here. It's very hard to find like self-service stuff. It's very, very difficult. Even the bread, while it's actually self-service in the fact that you pull it, you have to go over to that lady over there, and then you have to have her weigh it, and then you build it. So this is Puerto, which is what I drove through the other day and showed you a little bit, but now today it's not raining, it's a little bit sunnier and a little bit nicer out. Over there on that little peninsula that sticks out, that's another portion of Puerto, and it's mainly woods over there. This here is the really popular part of Puerto because it's the area where everybody comes to stay in. Rented cabins or hotels or whatnot. And this right all through here actually is the beach, the public beach, so you can go down there to the lake. And then about 2 kilometers from here, I guess, are the little shops and all that kind of stuff. So this is, you're looking through a dirty windshield, sorry, I gotta actually clean the Jeep, but that's kind of what it's like. And my wife is driving over there. She's doing a good job. I'm tired today. I don't feel like driving, so she's driving me. I have my own chauffeur. Another thing that's very, very common here is that you find these everywhere. Anywhere you're getting off the interstate or on the interstate are the tolls there. I know that some places in the States have tolls and stuff like that, but it's very, very common here. If I understand correctly, they're run by an independent company that the government has allowed to be contracted to have and that kind of stuff. So it's like every so many kilometers or every so many miles on the interstate, you also have a toll that you have to pay. And like I said, I know that that's common for certain places in the States, but for us that was something that we had to get used to because in the South that's not very common at all. I don't know if you guys can really see this out in front of us, but you can actually see from the car a little bit of the lake as well. The lake that is near our house is just absolutely huge. And all of this area here, whereas where we live is more mountainous and very big hills, this is all very plains oriented and rolling hills and farmland that has been sold off now for the most part to make bigger houses, and people with more money or whatnot come out. A lot of people from Santiago or Concepcion or whatnot come out and they build houses, and it's just like their kind of getaway. Sometimes they have a tendency to use like Skype or whatever for work. Internet working within a certain range or a certain kind of work is becoming ever more popular, but internet work overall is still not as common as it is in the States. And they do a lot of work here with steel for buildings and stuff. You see very little brick down here. It's mainly steel beams and the panel siding, or the panel sheets, corrugated sheets. So that's typical down here because of all the rain as well. It's hard to get mortar and brick to settle and dry like they want it to. And all of this side from the interstate east is getting more mountainous, and whereas where we're going today, which is a little town called Fresia, from the interstate west, which is toward the coast, the Pacific coast, it's getting more and more like, what would you call it, plains? Yeah, it's like, it's more like coastal plains is how the landscape gets. So I'll show you a little bit more as we go through this area toward Fresia. And from here over toward the coast, you see even more like lecherías. Dairy farms, that's the word I'm looking for. My wife has to be my dictionary sometimes. And so, you know, there are dairies around our house and in that area, but there's not as many on that side of the interstate toward the east coast as there is on the west side toward the Pacific. Here you can see a town called Yanquiwe, and that is what the general towns look like. I don't know if you guys can see the houses in much detail, but that is what a typical town looks like. They build all the houses right on top of each other. And like I said, they typically have tin roofs, you know, the corrugated roofs. They have tin siding as the sides, maybe some wood shingling, that kind of stuff. So it's just, they have very few, they don't have much of a yard when they build a house, honestly. Typically they have 6-7 feet on each side of the house, and that's all the yard they have. And then there's a wall, and then there's or a fence, and then there's their neighbor's house. I think it's just tradition. Plus I think it's to do a little bit with the cost of land. It's just expensive, and those who have a lot of land typically use it for farming, so they don't typically want to sell a lot of it, so they try to fit as many houses as possible in one little portion of land. One thing I did forget to mention is that we're actually riding right now on the Pan American Highway. Here it's actually in pretty good shape. They keep it pretty well paved all throughout Chile, is what I understand, if I'm not mistaken. Once you get into Peru, I understand it doesn't do too well up there. But honestly, I've never been into Peru, so I can't tell you. The roads here, though, are actually pretty good. They seem to keep them pretty good, wouldn't you say? In comparison to other countries that I've heard about and that kind of stuff. I know they're better than they were like when we went to visit Costa Rica, at least the section of Costa Rica that we went to. But Chile tries to keep their roads in pretty good shape, which is also part of where that 50% fuel tax they charge goes, is to not only creating new roads out in the rural areas, but also producing roads like this. On a lot of the interstate here, the speed limits are 120 kilometers an hour or 100 kilometers an hour. And so, you know, that's what, 75 miles an hour? I think it's 75 miles an hour. And the one weird thing here is, if I can find one day, I'll show you, because I'm not supposed to be talking on a cell phone or anything while I'm driving. So I have a hard time showing you while I'm driving a policeman. But the police officers here, they don't get behind you in their car and pull you over. They step out in the lane of the interstate and they wave you over with their hands, and you have to pull over, and then they write you a ticket, or they go over your documents. So it's kind of odd. And everywhere the policemen go around here, they actually have their lights on all the time. So everywhere a police car goes, they have their lights flashing, and it's kind of unnerving in the beginning, because at least us coming from the States, we always thought, are they trying to pull me over? But it's not. They're just driving around. They're just doing whatever they do, and they have their lights on. They make a lot of visits to neighbors too. I haven't really figured out why. But yeah, they like, especially, I hate this, hold on. Especially in the small towns, they stop, and you'll see them from one neighbor to the next. They just drive and get by. Chile also had a good reputation for a while of the police department, or the police force as a general rule, being one of the most respectable and least corrupt in the world. From living here, I understand that not that I'm speaking badly of their police department. There's just more problems everywhere in the world with problems with like their equivalent of the FBI, which is the PDI, Police of Investigation. And as younger members come on, and some get a little greedy and they're willing to take bribes and stuff, is what I hear from the news. That's news reports. That's not what I'm not saying that as a personal reflection on them. All the police officers that we've met have been fairly nice and very respectable and that kind of stuff. So they haven't been too hard to deal with. I've had a couple that were a little bit difficult, but nothing big. So, and you see very, very few people in Chile in general. The policemen, of course, have guns, but you see very few people here with guns, because to have a gun, even a rifle or whatever, a small caliber rifle to hunt with, you have to go through a lot of bureaucratic paperwork, and you have to have a psych test? Yeah, you have to have a psychological evaluation. So I keep looking to my left because there's my wife again. Remember, she's driving. So she is helping me out. And this is kind of what it's like on this side of the interstate, on the west coast side of the interstate. If I'm not mistaken, the interstate for most of the portion of Chile actually kind of divides it more or less in the center. It's not exactly in the center. It's a few kilometers to the west or to the east, but it's kind of like right down the center of the country that the interstate, the Pan American goes. So you get to, from the interstate to Argentinian border, I want to say is, what, 60 kilometers? No, 100 kilometers? Something like that maybe? And then from the interstate to the ocean in this area, in the 10th region, is about the same. So that's just kind of how it's broken up, Let me see if I can get well, let's see if my wife cannot run us off the road first. And there we go. That's kind of, a little bit better with the sunlight and everything. As I mentioned, there's bunches of moo cows. So you see a lot of these old barns and stuff like this out here. Up on the hill over there, there's an old house as well. This side of the country, this side of the interstate in this area is actually less developed as far as houses and stuff go. That's because these guys really use their land and make their money on farming more than on the other side still. On the other side, it's further away from Puerto Montt, so a lot of people have sold their land off for it to be like individual houses. And on this side, it's close enough that they still want to use it as farmland and go into town, and they haven't sold it off yet. The houses that are the original houses and barns like that one, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of dark, but I'm trying to show you guys. Like that house there, or this one here that we're passing, these are all houses and stuff that were originally built by the German settlers. And the German settlers came in the mid-1800s, right? The Spaniards, of course, settled Chile. Hold on, this is actually a school, if I'm not mistaken. Here, show you guys what a little small town school looks like in Chile. Not all small town schools look like that, by the way, but that's a fairly nice one actually. From what I recall, the fact that here's a nice set of German houses and stuff like that with their entrance down the roads, and it's just old barns, like hundreds of years old. So when Chile was settled, because of the climate down here in the south where it rains so much, not too many people wanted to come down here. They all stayed in the central regions of Chile, and they wanted to eventually get this area colonized as well, so they opened it up to Germans. They wrote a letter to the German government offering free land for anybody who is willing to come down and actually mark out the area and make settlements on it, farm it, clean it out. So acres, I don't know how many thousands of acres of mountain were stripped of the trees and turned into pasturage. They had to cut down the trees by axe, and these weren't small trees, and they're all hardwoods. And then they had to burn the stumps out of the ground and then fill it in and then let it grow with grass on it. And they use natural sources as their markers for the boundaries, like a stream here or a hill there or a river there or a grouping of trees, whatever it was. And a lot of those are still existing today. You talk to like further out, those people, the neighbors, that's how they mark their land. They're like, oh, over to that group of trees is our land, and up to that river, and that's how they do it. So a lot of these old houses that you see have that German look. They have very steep roofs. They use the thatch shingles. They have like the bright green or aqua colors and red and yellows on the window frames and around the doors and that kind of stuff, because they are old German houses. And some of the people here, especially like the grandparents, they actually still speak German, and they prefer German because their heritage up until about 60 years ago, they actually went to German schools and that kind of stuff. Now it's rare that you find a school that speaks German that we know of, right? And that kind of stuff. So most of the children of them, they understand German, but they don't speak German, they speak Spanish. So this house you see here, I mean, we're going by it kind of quick and it's not very close. That's a very typical farmhouse for workers, not for property owners, but for workers in Chile, in this area. This is also a very common sight here. I know in the Midwest they still drive around, but they have these tractors everywhere you go out here. There's always somebody driving a tractor by. And they actually have to get them registered for the highway. They have to have blinkers on them. They have to have a bunch of different stuff. They have to have license plates on them and insurance and that kind of stuff. Which is another thing. Here in Chile, they do offer full coverage insurance for your car, which is actually fairly expensive. I don't remember. Do you remember how much it is?
Depends on the car.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the car, but it's fairly expensive. But they'll only register or insure a car that's a certain amount of years old. They won't, after that, they won't even offer insurance for it. But you do have a governmental insurance you have to pay every year. You're obliged to pay it. And I want to say it's like $30. But you can imagine how much help that gives you when you're in an accident.
That's just liability too.
Yeah. It like Krista said, I don't know if you can hear her, it's just liability. So it's supposed to help cover the other person, but from what I understand, we haven't had an accident, and I hope we don't have one anytime soon. We understand it doesn't really do much for you. It's not much of a help. And so when you go to court because somebody hit you, you can have a court mandate against them so that every month they take a little bit of money out of their income. But a lot of times they only take like $10 a month out of their income. So you can imagine how long it would take to recover $3,000 or $2,000 in damage on a car, because at $10 or $20 a month. In fact, it's so frustrating that a lot of people who suffer large amounts of damage don't even bother, because it's just not worth it in the end. So that's, I mean, while Chile has advanced a lot in a lot of ways, they still are a third world country for a number of reasons. I mean, it's just a fact. It's not putting Chile down. It's just the way it is. So there's still aspects of Chile that, you know, are not what we're accustomed to coming from like the States. So I didn't get any more video out in Fresia like I had hoped. I was going to try to get you guys a little bit better video of some of the local houses out there, and that didn't work out. But it's just how it goes for now. But don't forget to continue to stop by my vlog at Eric McGrew, that's EricMcGrew.tv. And also you can check out my off-road podcast at offroadindependence.com. And then of course you can also check out my fabrication work with simple tools at beginnersfab.com. Continue to check all this stuff out, and don't forget that you can subscribe to my newsletter on the website. It's on the left hand side in the menu bar, and also if you feel motivated enough to do so, you can donate and help me keep these videos and these episodes and the website going. So thanks for all your support, and hope you guys continue to watch my vlog.